When the Count knocked on the door of Suite 208, it was opened by an older woman who regarded him with impatience.
"Yes?"
"I am Alexander Rostov."
"You're expected. Come in. Miss Urbanova will be a moment."
Instinctively, the Count prepared to offer the woman a witty remark about the weather, but when he stepped inside, she stepped out and closed the door, leaving him alone in the entryway. Decorated in the style of a Venetian palazzo, Suite 208 was one of the finest accommodations on the floor and looked no worse for wear now that the tireless typers of directives had finally moved to the Kremlin. With a bedroom and drawing room on either side of a grand salon, its ceilings were painted with allegorical figures gazing down from the heavens. On an ornate side table stood two towering arrangements of flowers, one of calla lilies and the other of long-stem roses. The fact that the two arrangements matched each other in extravagance while clashing in colour suggested they were from competing admirers. One could only imagine what a third admirer would feel obliged to send. "I'll be right out," called a voice from the bedroom. "Take your time," called back the Count. At the sound of his voice, there was a light clacking of nails on the floor as the Borzois appeared from the drawing room. "Hello, boys," he said, giving them another scratch behind the ears. Having paid their respects, the dogs trotted to the windows overlooking Theatre Square and rested their forepaws on the sills in order to watch the movement of the cars below. "Count Rostov." Turning, the Count found the actress dressed in her third outfit of the day, black pants and an ivory blouse. With a smile of an old acquaintance and her hand extended, she approached. "I'm so pleased you could come." "The pleasure is mine, Miss Urbanova." "I doubt that, but please call me Anna." Before the Count could reply, there was a knock at the door. "Ah," she said, "here we are." Swinging the door open, she stepped aside to let Oleg from room service pass. When Oleg caught sight of the Count, he nearly ran his dinner cart into the competing arrangements of flowers. "Perhaps over there by the window," suggested the actress. "Yes, Miss Urbanova," said Oleg, who, having regained his composure, set a table for two, lit a candle, and backed out the door. The actress turned to the Count. "Have you eaten? I've been in 2 restaurants and a bar today and haven't had a bite. I'm absolutely starving. Won't you join me?" "Certainly." The Count pulled back a chair for his hostess and, as he took his seat on the opposite side of the candle, the Borzois looked back from their windows. Presumably, here was a scene that neither of the dogs could have anticipated earlier that day, but having long since lost interest in the fickle course of human affairs, they dropped to the floor and trotted back to the drawing room without a second glance. The actress watched them retire a little wistfully. "I confess that I am not a dog lover." "Then why do you have them?" "They were a gift." "Ah, from an admirer?" She responded with a wry smile. "I would have settled for a necklace." The Count returned the smile. "Well," she said, "let's see what we've got." Removing the silver dome from the serving plate, the actress revealed one of Emil's signature dishes, whole bass roasted with black olives, fennel, and lemon. "Lovely," she said. And the Count could not agree more, for by setting his oven to 450 degrees, Emil ensured that the flesh of the fish was tender, the fennel aromatic, and the lemon slices blackened and crisp. "So, 2 restaurants and a bar without having a bite to eat." Thus began the Count, with the natural intention of letting the actress recount her day while he prepared her plate. But before he could lift a finger, she had taken the knife and serving fork in hand, and as she began to relate the professional obligations that had commandeered her afternoon, she scored the fish's spine with the tip of the knife and made diagonal cuts at its head and tail. Then, slipping the serving fork between the fish's spine and its flesh, she deftly liberated the fillet. In a few succinct movements, she had served portions of the fennel and olives, and topped the fillet with the charred lemon. Handing the Count this perfectly prepared plate, she plucked the spine from the fish and served herself the second fillet with accompaniments, an operation that took no more than a minute. Then, placing the serving utensils on the platter, she turned her attention to the wine. Good God, thought the Count. So engrossed had he been in watching her technique, he had neglected his own responsibilities. Leaping from his chair, he took the bottle by the neck. "May I?" "Thank you." As the Count poured the wine, he noted it was a dry Montrachet, the perfect complement to Émile's Bass, and clearly the handiwork of André. The Count raised his glass to his hostess. "I must say that you deboned that fish like an expert." She laughed. "Is that a compliment?" "Of course it's a compliment. Well, at least it was intended as one." "In that case, thank you. But I wouldn't make too much of it. I was raised in a fishing village on the Black Sea, so I've tied more than my share of knots and filleted more than my share of fish." "You could do worse than dining on fish every night." "That's true. But when you live in a fisherman's house, you tend to eat what can't be sold. So more often than not, we dined on flatfish and bream." "The bounty of the sea." "The bottom of the sea." And with that disarming memory, Anna Urbanova was suddenly describing how, as a girl, she would steal away from her mother at dusk and wind her way down the sloping streets of her village so that she could meet her father on the beach and help him mend his nets. And as she talked, the Count had to acknowledge once again the virtues of withholding judgment. After all, what can a first impression tell us about someone we've just met for a minute in the lobby of a hotel? For that matter, what can a first impression tell us about anyone? Why, no more than a chord can tell us about Beethoven, or a brushstroke about Botticelli. By their very nature, human beings are so capricious, so complex, so delightfully contradictory, that they deserve not only our consideration, but our reconsideration, and our unwavering determination to withhold our opinion until we have engaged with them in every possible setting at every possible hour.